We're back in Assen for the 9th round of MotoGP in 2021, and for the 4th race in 5 weeks, we start to prepare for a 5-week summer break. Fans are back at this classic venue in Assen, and we are ready to race for the Dutch TT, which is coming up next. The 90th edition of the Dutch TT, the 4.5 kilometre circuit now used, having undergone many modifications over the last few decades. 18 corners, 12 of them are right, 6 of them are left. The best race lap, Marc Marquez from 2015, 6. We've seen some brilliant racing over the years, so there are many overtaking hotspots, including this one over into the Timmer chicane. Rossi on Petrucci back in 2017. Coming up next, will he stay or will he go? Viñales is on pole despite news that he may leave Yamaha. His teammate Fabio Quartararo holds a 22-point lead overall and will start the Dutch TT from second. Pecco Bagnaia and his Ducati aim to halt the Yamaha show. He qualified third. Taka Nakagami and his LCR Honda lead the rest of the field, with the Japanese rider starting from 4th. It's race day here in Assen. Great to be back in the Netherlands with 11,500 fans in the grandstands as we are treated to another instalment of the Dutch TT, the 90th edition, coming up next. Partly cloudy but mostly sunny. We should escape any rain and have a full dry race here. 26 laps coming up for the world's best riders at Grand Prix level. The Yamahas have been in top form. Maverick Viñales is on pole for the first time in 2021, but all of the headlines are about Maverick Viñales off circuit as the bombshell came last night, the breaking news that perhaps Maverick Viñales is going to cut short life at Yamaha and move over to Aprilia. And there has been nothing to suggest since we heard that, Matt Burt, from last night that that's actually going to be any different.
Yeah, the silence from both Aprilia and Yamaha kind of speaking more than 1,000 words could ever do, couldn't they? Yeah, all the news then pre-race about Maverick Viñales, headline maker on and off the circuit. Will this man be creating some headlines for himself a little bit later on this afternoon? Taka Nakagami goes from 4th place on the grid on the Idemitsu LCR Honda. Can he finally break his podium duck in MotoGP? This is his 57th Premier Class appearance, still without a podium. Of course, he is a former race winner here, though, in Assen, won his first Grand Prix here 5 years ago in Moto2.
Just saw Quartararo there, 3-timer winner in 2021 already, going out there for his 4th victory today and defending a 22-point lead, second on the grid for the Frenchman.
Just walking down those steps out the back of the Repsol Honda truck will be a painful exercise for Marc Marquez. If you joined us earlier on this weekend, the bruising crash, the huge high side up at turn number 11 in FP2 on Friday afternoon, pain in his elbows, his knees, particularly in his right foot. Marc Marquez starting from 20th place on the grid. It's his worst ever grid position in his MotoGP career. He felt like, without all the drama, of course there was a crash in Q1 as well at turn 9, without all of that he had top 6 potential. It's going to be fascinating to see Marc Marquez try and fight his way back through the pack, although it's unlikely he'll be adding another victory after his 11th successive win in Sachsenring last weekend.
Well, this is the man that the entire paddock is talking about at the moment, the mysterious case of Maverick Viñales. Rock bottom 7 days ago in Germany, back to his best here this weekend, and then the news that perhaps he's on his way out of the door at Yamaha. An extraordinary 24 hours.
Well, he walked into the factory Yamaha camp in late June. Will he walk out of it permanently? in mid-November in Valencia. The bombshell news, the paddock's still reeling from the news that broke around 8:30 p.m. last night that Maverick Viñales, the pole man here in Assen, is going to sever his ties with the factory Yamaha team, walk out of his contract halfway through a 2-year deal and join this man, Aleix Espargaro, next year on a factory Aprilia RSGP. It would be a huge coup, a huge bonus for Aprilia. Right now their main aim is to try and get Aleix Espargaro to a first podium for the Newali factory. But we could have 2 Spaniards on factory in 2022. What a story that broke here last night.
It really is unbelievable, isn't it? The news here heading into the summer break. There's Johann Zarco. Could be a tricky day for both he and fellow Ducati riders here in Assen. Pecco Bagnaia, yes, he's on the front row, but they have just been missing that piece of the jigsaw that they've had so often this year. It's the only circuit I can recall so far this year, Matt, do look like they have a disadvantage, because everywhere else we have been, they have been bang on the money.
Great job by Pecco Bagnaia to salvage a front row start, just the 3rd of his Grand Prix career in MotoGP. Given all the difficulties that they've had, particularly in the high-speed change of direction, the turning as well. A nice cheeky wink and a wave from Fabio Quartararo. On paper, it looks like a straight shootout between the 2 Monster Energy Yamaha men, Viñales versus Quartararo. We've been in that position before, though, particularly at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Fabio Quartararo was a red-hot favourite going into that Grand Prix, and it never really materialised. Miguel Oliveira prevailed on that day. Here is then the front row starter, Pecco Bagnaia. A fantastic record here in Assen, a Moto3 winner, a Moto2 winner. He loves the place so much, he's got a track map tattooed on his left arm. That's how much he loves Assen. Will it be kind to him today in this 26-lap race? He's only got really one plan to start the race, make a good start and then try and disrupt the pace of Viñales and Quartararo, who, if they can get to the front early, well, they've suggested that they can make a decisive break early on and make it a 2-horse battle between the 2 M1s.
Arguably, the man in form over anyone else in MotoGP right now is in front of you. Portugal's Miguel Oliveira, a brilliant second in Sachsenring, the winner in Catalunya, the second in Mugello. Since the new chassis has come over, this KTM rider has been on fire. He starts from 6th on the grid again, just as he did in Sachsenring 7 days ago, looking to make it back-to-back podiums in 4 races here today.
Alex Rins, unhappy memories of his last visit to Assen. He was leading the Grand Prix early on when he crashed up at turn 9. He's going to be Suzuki's best qualifier. Rins was 7th, just missing out on the top 6. A crucial late crash in Q2 up at turn 8 cost him a place on those first 2 rows. Alex Rins, though, was comfortably inside the top 5 in this morning's warm-up session, and he believes he's not going to be too far away from the podium battle at the end of this 26-lapper.
This weekend for Jack Miller, but he's still got a smile on his face. 3rd in the World Championship, 8th is as far back as he started a MotoGP race so far this year. What can Jack salvage from his day here in Assen? Of course, that memorable victory here on the Estrella Galicia Mark VDS Honda 5 years ago.
Pretty eventful Saturday afternoon for Johann Zarco. At one stage, everybody thought he was missing out on a place in Q2 and was going to be starting as far back as 17th. He put in one late hot lap to come through Q1 and then was fighting for the front row in Q2. 5th on the grid, P5 for number 5. Johann Zarco keeps his great qualifying record going. He started top 6 in every race so far in 2021.
10th on the grid for the 4th time this season then for the world champion Joan Mir. Got good pace, good rhythm, rocket start, and he could be there mixing it with the guys at the front. Mir really hoping for a podium to take into the summer break to try and cling on to some hope of wrestling back a championship advantage, because coming into this one, Joan Mir 46 points down on Quartararo in 5th overall.
This young man's got a lot of work to do. We keep bigging him up as a Sunday man, while Brad Binder needs to live up to that tag this afternoon. 21st on the grid, Red Bull KTM factory rider. All kinds of problems throughout yesterday, a bit of pumping on the rear, head shaking from the front end as well. Mainly he was having to roll out of it, particularly through turn 6 and 7, the sweep from Wien-Schlang. So a tough day ahead for Brad Binder from 21st on the grid. He's a realist, he's an optimist as well, but he said realistically the best he can hope for today is likely to be a top 10, which would be a great rescue mission, that 7th row.
So riders making their way then out. Pit lane closes in 5 minutes. Plenty of Marc Marquez fans, plenty of Valentino Rossi fans as well coming into this one. And if you are a fan of the Doctor, like so many hundreds and thousands and millions are, the good news is that this is looking like potentially being one of the strongest weekends of Valentino Rossi's season so far. The 10-time winner here in Assen starts from 12th, but definitely has top 8 pace, and you never know, maybe something a little bit better.
Yeah, of course he was here 4 years ago now. We saw in this build-up his overtake at the Goettinger chicane on Danilo Petrucci. It was that very Grand Prix here in Assen 2017 that he won the last time in MotoGP.
It is the 90th edition of the Dutch TT. Look at those classic blacks all the way from 1925 through to the post-Second World War era. The only 2 breaks that we've had in terms of races that have been staged here in Assen in general, and the old roads around, because there was an old circuit that went around Rolde and Schunlu as well, was the Second World War and COVID-19, the pandemic from last year. It is just rich in history, this place.
The Cathedral of Speed, one of the most famous racing circuits on planet Earth. The mere mention of the words Dutch TT in Assen, it kind of makes the hairs on your arms and your neck stand up, doesn't it? It's a classic venue. Let's hope we're in for a classic MotoGP race here. And what will be the next chapter in the life of Maverick Vinales? Well, of course, it's a new surface here in Assen. We expect the prospect of soft, medium and hard viable race option. Medium and hard fronts look like they'll be the preferred, very grippy. All the riders universally praising this new surface here in Assen. The old one wasn't too bad either, but this new one, still a few bumps in places, but the grip it offers, absolutely fantastic, both in wet and dry conditions. It doesn't look like, thankfully, we're going to need the rain tyres, but it will be interesting because the grip levels, there's not a lot of spin here, which means not a lot of tyre wear, so we may well see quite a divide, quite a split in terms of rear tyre choice and front tyre choice ahead of this 26-lap race. Rossi himself was torn between the hard and medium. Yesterday in FP4 did a lot of very good laps on the yellow-banded hard rear tyre, and it looked like, based on what he was saying to the media last night, that would be his pick.
Valentino Rossi fans still out in full force. Is this going to be Valentino's last dance in Assen? The decision's still not been made yet down in that camp. There's still a lot of people hoping, including the Prince himself, that he might well be racing a Ducati next year as a 43-year-old. Who knows?
Yeah, well, they're a depleted army with the COVID-19 restrictions, the yellow army of Rossi fans, but they still outnumber everybody else in the 11,500 here. Last weekend, our cameras had to go all the way to the back of the grid to find this man, Maverick Vinales. Today, it's Marc Marquez who finds himself on the back row of the grid. So then, what lies in store for the enigma that is the 26-year-old Spaniard, Maverick Vinales? Will it be win number 10 in MotoGP today, the 26th of his Grand Prix career? Aprilia bound, everybody expects. When will that news finally be confirmed? You'd know that whatever happens today for Maverick Vinales, face a barrage and be bombarded with questions by the media in the face of the news that broke last night that he is potentially going to quit Yamaha at the end of the season and move to Aprilia. Of course, that begs the question, who will be lining up alongside this man in Monster Energy Yamaha next season? Fabio Quartararo with the vacant seat alongside him. We've heard Franco Morbidelli's name obviously mentioned, Garrett Gerloff also in contention, a bunch of names.
Let's pop down onto the grid then and find out what the chances are of Ducati of causing an upset here. It looks like a Yamaha race on paper, but MotoGP 2021 is so unpredictable. Batty's standing by with Simon down on the grid.
He is, and Steve, that's exactly what I want to know. First up, Paolo, is it looks like the Monster Yamahas have an extra bit of speed, another level, but Pecco, right at the end of practice or in qualifying, seemed to have found something. Do you think he can get in there and mix it up?
Well, as you said, I think Maverick and Fabio have just a different pace to anybody else. So, okay, let's see. The race is always maybe a little bit different. Let's see if we can get a good start, and maybe not let them go at the beginning, but I think more realistic, we should be looking at a podium finish on the third position. I think is the most realistic, but let's see what the race will bring us, and we'll take it from there.
Paolo, something else. I haven't had a chance to talk to you all this weekend and want to ask you about the news of VR46, a new team completely with Ducatis next year. And that brings me to the question is, I mean, 8 riders worth of machines on the grid. That's at least double any other manufacturer. Ducati obviously completely confident they can supply awesome machinery to all those riders.
Yeah, it's true. It's a lot of bikes, but we did it already in the recent past when we had Pramac, Kaspar and Davintia. So I think just by signing this deal in time give us the possibility to organize everything perfectly for next year, both on the material side and also on the technical support. So we're confident we can do a good job with them, and obviously very happy to be with the 2 new teams, with VR46 and Gresini, and also with the riders. So, you know, good for Ducati to be able to manage those teams, those bikes, and eventually also some young promising riders.
Thank you, Paolo.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Paolo Ciabatti, thanks to Simon Crafard down on the grid. The helicopter shots there of Assen, as we mentioned, one of the most famous and instantly recognisable names in the history of the MotoGP World Championship. Now, we were just talking about Maverick Vinales and his liking of some decision. At the moment, he's the only rider that's come to the grid with the soft front tyre. Everybody else has gone medium or hard. Let's try and pick the bones out of that front tyre choice, and the prospects for Maverick Vinales and Fabio Quartararo ahead of this Dutch TT, where they are both big favourites to be fighting for the victory. Let's get the thoughts of Monster Energy Yamaha team manager Maio Meregali, who's with Simon.
He is, Maio, as Matt is just saying, your riders are favourites coming into this race, but they've been favourites before and it hasn't worked out. Like, racing is not so predictable. Plus, Maverick, as I've seen quite often, has gone for a softer option tyre than the opposition. You think it's going to work today?
He is quite convinced, and he has only one, let's say, tactic. He has to start first, because leading the group, for sure the front tyre should not suffer. If it will be in the mess, for sure the soft tyre without will work until the end of the race. But in these days he did put quite a lot of laps on it, and he always had a good feeling. Instead, when he used the medium, the bike didn't really turn well as the soft, and that's let's say is a risk or a bet, but I think he knows what he has to do.
Maio, thanks for your time. Best of luck. Hope to see you in Parc Ferme.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thanks Simon, and thanks to Maio Meregali. It is a bet, it is a risk, because Maverick if they're in the group, they have problems with front tyre temperature, front tyre pressure, and that could be an issue for Maverick Vinales. So pressure on from the get-go for him to make the start. Interestingly, in terms of rear tyre choices, we didn't think it would be a split. Pol Espargaro, Alex Marquez and Marc Marquez have gone for the soft rear.
We do racing 30 years together then, and this was the Dutch GP in 1992. Alex Crivier winning on that day from John Kaczynski and Barros, Alex Barros.
Some names from the past, of course. An American on the grid here today, Garrett Gerloff, replacing Franco Morbidelli, who's just about to start an intensive rehabilitation after some major reconstructive surgery of his left knee. There's been problems ongoing over the last few weeks for Franco Morbidelli. Quickly coming back to the rear tyre choice, as we mentioned, no great surprise that Marc Marquez coming from the back of the grid. He's gone for the soft rear tyres. He knows he's got to be aggressive at the start and use that extra grip to fight his way forward. And 2 other Hondas as well. His teammate Pol Espargaro and his brother Alex Marquez came to the grid with the soft rear tyre.
There's Bayer from the KTM team. She'll be hoping her boys can do a good job. She was helping to coordinate a rather nice barbecue the other day with Johnny Eyre as well. Johnny Eyre doing the pit board today for Brad Binder. Let's go down now and get the thoughts ahead of this race. This will be an intriguing one from Suzuki's perspective because they've got good pace. Alex Rins and Joan Mir, can they be on the podium? Shinichi Sahara is with Simon.
Yeah, I'm with you, Steve. Sahara-san, he's just busy checking some other things here. Sahara-san, today I think your guys can make it through to the podium. More importantly, what do you think?
I hope so. Yeah, the third row, fourth row is not great position for us, but not very bad for us also. And as usual, we make a good start and catching up front guys. And they have a very good pace, very strong pace with the race tire. So I hope in early laps, our riders catch up the front guys, especially Yamaha guys. Yeah.
Best of luck.
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, thanks to Simon, thanks to Shinichi Sahara, boss of Suzuki. The virtual fan wall, fans gathered around the four corners of the globe, about to enjoy the atmosphere here of the Dutch TT, the 90th edition of this iconic event, and we're delighted to say that 11,500 fans are not watching virtually, they are here watching from the grandstands. What can this man do from his worst ever MotoGP qualifying? We never thought we'd say this, did we? Marc Marquez, 20th place on the grid. Jack Miller's got a bit of work to do as well. 8th place, his worst qualifying performance in 12 Grand Prix for the Australian. Not overly confident in his podium prospects. It might well be a damage limitation exercise for Miller coming up in the 26th lap Dutch TT. Let's pop down to Simon again on the grid. Aleix Espargaro's had great race pace all weekend, perhaps just missed out in qualifying. That's why he finds himself on the back of the third row, but confident he can fight through to the top five yet again. Does Antonio agree with us? Let's find out with Simon.
Yeah, he's just handing the umbrella job over. Antonio, Aleix has looked fantastic, race pace, like really good. I mean, there's the Yamahas there, and then there's a group after that, and he's in there. Do you think he can hang on till the end?
Well, since today, so I saw that when he take a good start, so he is able to stay on the group until the end. It's true that today is a little bit strange because most of the riders they decide to go on the hard tire on the rear. So this will make some difference at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of the race. So we make a more conservative choice. I mean, it's not only the fact that have a good start and stay in the front group, and to see why or how the temperature will change, because now the sun is there, so the ground 40 degrees. So I think by the potential of Aleix with our bike, he have the possibility to stay on the group and fighting to be close to the podium again, but for sure the tire will be a very high factor during the race.
You've gone for the soft rear.
No, we go with the medium.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Simon. Thanks to Antonio Jimenez. Aleix Espargaro then looking for yet another top 8 finish here today, and maybe something a bit better as well. What is going through the mind of that man, Maverick Viñales?
Well, he's rolled the dice unquestionably. When you look at the front tyre choice, he's the only man on that soft front tyre, and he has got to make the start. And when you think that he's Pecco Bagnaia, Johann Zarco coming from the second row, we know Miguel Oliveira is a fast starter on the K-Tour, that Viñales does not get stuck in a group and then risk that front tyre overheating.
It's still 199 podiums for Valentino Rossi, and the likelihood is it will stay like that by the end of today. But there is some hope. The Petronas Yamaha rider, with huge fans here in the grandstand, can have some hope. He may well just feature in the early stages in a battle for the top 6 or 7.
Nice piece of artwork there commemorating the 90th edition of the Dutch TT. Absolutely gorgeous. A late June day here in Assen. A lot of quite grim and bleak weather forecasts were hitting us when we first arrived here in this part of the Netherlands, but it's been a relatively nice weather weekend weather-wise. Iker Lecuona, season best qualifying for him in 13th place, just missed out on a place in Q2 yesterday afternoon. Of course, trying to show KTM and Tech3 that potentially they made the wrong call to fire him out of that garage next year. It's not confirmed yet, but of course we know that him and Danilo are for one spot, with Remy Gardner's imminent arrival in the Tech 3 garage next year, and with mounting speculation that Raul Fernandez will commit to that team next year. Fabio Quartararo, good of him to speak to French TV on the grid there, with just what, less than 10 minutes of the Dutch TT to go.
Let's pop down back onto the grid then as we look here at Jorge Martin and find out what the chances are today for the Red Bull KTM factory boys. Opposite ends of the grid in many ways. Miguel Oliveira going for a 4th podium, Brad Binder back in 21st, Mike Leitner is with Simon.
He is. Mike, we know how good Brad is on Sundays, but he's buried on the grid. He's a long way back. Miguel, I looked at his FP4 pace and it looked fantastic. I want to know what you think he can do today.
Yeah, like you say, Simon, Miguel is on a better position on the grid, that's for clear, and he did really good runs, a good work during the weekend, but you know, this race will be very tough, physically demanding, you know, and yeah, I hope he can do a good first lap, you know, it's always tricky here in turn 1 and on the backside. And then, yeah, anyway, the race will then decided by the lap times, what lap times you are able to do, and yeah, it's difficult to be there on the top. For Brad, yeah, from that position, he can only be patient and learn from other riders on that track, because he's this rookie, went here on that circuit, and yeah, he was suffering. He couldn't find really the bike he liked. So we hope in the race he have a better feeling, and yeah, he did a great performance on Sachsenring. But you cannot repeat this on each track, so you have to take the most out what you can do. That we told him, and yeah, the rest, next race is in Spielberg and we go again.
Mike, one quick question for you is rear tyres. You've spent a lot of time, I saw your riders on the hard rear. How many laps do you have to be careful with them? How many to get them going for the race?
Yeah, it's very strange. Actually, it's not that hard, but of course the soft at the beginning will have an advantage, but we will see. We see also Marc and Paul been running a lot on the soft rear, and it will be very interesting to see how this tire perform in the race. So difficult to give any idea before the race.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Mike Leitner then. Riders seeking shade. Then ahead of this one we saw earlier on, Lecuona Martin and Savadori on row 5. Row 6 is Alex Marquez, Luca Marini and Danilo Petrucci, and you just heard there from Mike Leitner, Binder and Marquez, both live wires, shall we say, on that 7th row. We'll keep an eye on their progress here in this 26-lap race.
So the countdown continues then to round 9 of the 2021 MotoGP World Championship. Pole position for Maverick Viñales, and a soft front tyre gamble to boot as well. Will that pay off for the Spanish rider? Danilo Petrucci, a former podium man here in Assen, with work to do from 18th place on the grid. More problems for Petrucci getting that soft rear tyre to work in qualifying sessions. He's still not qualified higher than 17th on the KTM RC 16 so far this year.
Simon, which way do you think this can pan out? It looks like on paper it's Yamaha's to lose, but it looked that way for Quartararo in Catalunya.
You're right, Steve. They're exactly what I was saying to Mayo. Look, it's very unpredictable as always, but Viñales and Quartararo, or maybe the other way around, had clearly the pace, you know, to run away if they can get away. Problem is the Ducati's off the line. Pecco's right there on the. He's going to be there, if not in front of them, and it might take them time to get by. Then, you know, after Viñales and Quartararo, I've got to move to the Suzukis and Miguel Oliveira. They were the ones for me that looked like they could go all the way through to the podium, those three. And again, Aleix Espargaro, I really, in the beginning, I just don't know we just haven't seen him there all the way to the end in a race yet. So that's why I'm not betting on him to get there. So the thing is, with my prediction of Quartararo, Vinales, followed by the Suzukis at the end and Miguel, or the other way around, is the Ducatis are going to get in there, like off the start. But Pecco Bagnaia, the reason I'm not betting him to get to the podium is he just didn't show the pace all the way through on the long runs, but he found something at the end of practice, and I'm really curious to see that if he can not only get the start but stay there. And anyway, that's my thoughts. Fingers crossed. And as I said, this sport is totally unpredictable, so I'm probably completely wrong.
That's why we love it, Simon Crafar. Thank you very much for your thoughts and observations then ahead of the Dutch TT here in Assen. The weather could not be better. It is a little hotter than I think early forecasts suggested. As we get ready then to start after this, a 5-week summer break. Quartararo comes into this one with a 22-point lead to defend. Garrett Gerloff at the back of the grid we just saw there. Good luck to him, the Texan, taking part in his first ever MotoGP race as he stands in for the recovering Franco Morbidelli. And Franco, we hope to have you back soon. Here's your front row then for the Dutch Grand Prix. Now that there, you can see, is the soft front of Maverick Vinales, the only rider we believe on the grid to have opted for that. Is that a gamble from number 12? Seeing the last of his days as a Yamaha rider. It would be so Maverick, wouldn't it, to win this race here today after finishing stone last week and everything that's going on off circuit as well. The most recent winner of the Dutch TT there on pole position.
Well, he's called Top Gun. He was the top man in qualifying yesterday. Will he be on the top step of the podium in about 45 minutes time?
Bagnaia then third on the grid, looking to try and halt the Yamaha's progress early on. Fabio Quartararo 22 points up. How will that fare by the end of proceedings?